The faces, our faces.
Both of our faces. Yes. Well, welcome to the Side Woo Tarot reading. I'm going to do a tarot reading for you today. For listeners, I was just on Nikki's podcast right before this called A Matter of Life and Debt. And I was on 3 years ago when it first started, and time has flown. We've all had crazy times in our lives. And here we are talking about the same things, just slightly different.
From a different place.
Yeah. But Nikki is a consultant in design and software production. Is that right?
I just like do all the things. So yeah, currently my role is I'm consulting for startups, for some AI companies, and just, you know, doing software design to pay the bills.
Yeah, and you've done like you do websites and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
You're kind of like freelancing right now after leaving a full-time job, right?
Yeah, I am just trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And so I feel like this is a perfect time for what we're doing because yeah, I don't know. I might move to Colorado. There's like a lot of things
Mm,
that are out there because I just, I'm trying to, I talked to my career coach and we're just like, why don't you focus on what makes you happier, like going towards like your vision for life instead of focusing on what I focused on was like getting out of student debt, paying off
hmm.
all that stuff. I've gotten to a place where now I'm like, how about you focus on things that make you happy? And like, why wasn't I doing this before? But yeah.
Right. I think this is why we're having this reading together because this is very much what I'm going through right now. Like I'm like, oh, maybe I'll move to Minnesota, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. And it's very so I get that. I wanted to start by saying I'm using a new deck called the Radiant Tarot deck, and I'm
Ooh,
hoping to have the creator on my podcast. But he spent 12 years trying to get this published as a
wow.
deck. Like he went through a publisher instead of doing self-publishing, and he kept submitting for 12 years. So I was really inspired by that because I don't think I would keep doing something for that long and get like full on rejections. I don't know. So good for him. But
I'm muting myself in between things a little bit because a car is driving by. So
oh
if I
yeah.
pause for a second, it's just because like a car drove by and I don't want that.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine. Well, okay, so is there anything that you want to focus on in terms of like the type of question or focus or
I'm really curious directionally, not where my happiness is, but like, we've done this before, you and I, we did some like locational sort of
yes.
sort of stuff. And so I guess I want to think about Denver a little and think about like
Mm,
locationally, is that a place to align my higher self with? Is that a
mm.
place that will bring out the best in me, bring out the best of like what I want to give to the world or be in the world or energetically, that's a lot, but
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it does feel like good energy. Okay, so the first thing I got was Four of Wands, which is like home and belonging, or usually that's how it shows up for me. So, you're from there, right? Or your mom is there?
yeah, so I am the first generation born in Denver. So I'm like born and raised in Denver. My family's from New York and New Orleans,
Oh,
but I'm
that's right.
the first generation born in Colorado.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like there's a comfort of going to home and knowing that you belong there just by nature of you having been there, and having roots. And then there's two cards that are kind of like early stage. They're both pages. So you have Page of Pentacles and Page of Wands, which are like a little bit about starting over. It's making me think with this lion one, the Page of Wands, there's this idea that maybe it will afford you more opportunity to make art. And you can have a little bit more breathing room to follow what inspires you in that realm. Cause I know, like we've talked before, that this San Francisco is not a place where you feel like you have a ton of resources to make art just because it's so expensive. And
Yeah. Yeah. And like energetically, it took me 7 years or 6 or 7 years to even find artists that I aligned with, that I felt like, oh, this is really, really cool, or this is interesting. Like I felt it was so hard. When I lived in
yeah.
New York, it was so much easier for me. Well, I was also in grad school, so you're surrounded by artists. But in Colorado, everything is so easy for me in terms of like
Mhm.
I already have like a nice foundation of artists that I know there that I like really enjoy, and the things are a little more affordable. I mean, in perspective, it's still very expensive there, but not California expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the Page of Pentacles makes me think that because of that whole new set of dynamics, it'll also allow you to kind of open the door into just a whole nother way of engaging with your physical resources as well as like your creative ideas. And yeah, it really feels like there's like potential for this portal that will really kind of lighten your load. Like it feels like you'll be kind of stepping into this gated area on the, for listeners on the card, there's this like red door that opens into a gated garden. And so there's this feeling of like, but also maybe that's a painting. So it's kind of a little bit like mysterious. But there's this feeling that going in there, it's almost like in some decks, this is what the Ace of Pentacles looks like with the gate and the kind of arched doorway. Um, Almost a fresh start, but like not because obviously you've been around. The page is like childlike, but in this case, like this deer looks like a mature, young adult. So, you have some wisdom, but yeah. And then you got Two of Cups and King of Swords, which makes me think again, this, like there's like possibility for partnership in a way that, maybe, yeah, just there will be that. Not that you don't have it in SF, but the King of Swords makes me think it's like a little bit more professional. This is definitely professional. Like this Two of Cups being like a heart to heart meeting, but it being about your work and your creative project and you kind of operating at the top of your game with the King of Swords. Um, so these all feel really positive. I think what could be interesting is to compare it to something if you are thinking of another option. Otherwise, doing some other spread around it. Like, because, what
Mhm.
are you kind of, what is like the tension around not moving there?
Well, I just bought this house. So the tension is like, do I stay here? Will I be able to achieve what, you know, getting to this higher being? I've always had this tension inside of me, like where I see almost like a portal, just like what you're saying, but I can't get through to the other side. I've always been on like this side, and I've always wanted to, how do I get through that window? How do I get through that thing to the next side? And I feel like I've just been here clawing. So I'm curious if like,
Yeah.
can I get there here, or is the opportunity better to go there?
Yeah. So I pulled cards around your house and I got Queen of Swords and the Ten of Wands first, which makes me think, potentially this Queen of Swords is relating to your career. And already you're a little bit in this like higher position in SF. So there's this idea of potentially giving you more like power or jobs that allow you to kind of step into your power more immediately because you've like built up your resume. But then also the Ten of Wands, like the burden is pretty heavy and it might be like too much, like you can't carry all of it by yourself. And that's usually the Ten of Wands energy. And like in this deck, it's a planter with all these like sticks that have some plant life on them, but they've been like cut off at the top. And so it doesn't feel like there's room for you to grow because it's been cut off. Like all the fruit and everything that would have blossomed has been cut off, and then now you're growing these little bits and bobs like on the sides, but it doesn't feel like abundant in the way that it maybe would if it were like a full tree, you know? Um, so yeah, it's making me think like definitely there's exhaustion, but also it comes with it certain privileges that maybe you're not quite ready to let go of yet. And also certain learning opportunities, you know, like being the Queen of Wands is a skill that like you hone, you know, throughout your life. And so to have really have that down, you can take that with you wherever you go. And then you also got Four of Swords and Queen of Pentacles, which felt like more of an instruction in a way. Like the Four of Swords being like a moment for resting, you know, like instead of acting, which I'm sure you love to hear. But the Queen of Pentacles being, in this case, she's like a peacock, which is kind of interesting. She's got all these like peacock feathers on her, which is a little different than other decks where she's a little bit more a woman of the earth, whereas I feel like Peacock is a little flashy. Um, but also, like when I think of Queen of Pentacles, I think of you. Like you're so good with your money and you really know where everything is. But I think there's a way that you can use those resources to like further support your creativity and your yourself in a way that like puts you first. And I feel like you a lot of the work that you do is like in a support role, and like you've got like big Leo energy, like you're a Leo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like there's this natural inclination to be out there like teaching people and helping, and I think you are doing that maybe behind the scenes at different jobs, but like what would it look like for you to step into a role where that is the only thing that you do, you know, instead of it being like kind of a helper behind the scenes? Or, yeah, or how could you reach more people around things that you are really important to you while staying grounded in your values, which maybe weren't reflected in previous roles as much that you had? And yeah, going back to the Four of Swords, there's this mandala. So there's something about like meditation and also finding peace. And it's almost like this like little brain in the middle. I don't know, like finding peace through your mind will be important wherever you go, because wherever you go, there you are, you know? So you'll have to find that kind of inner stability as well as like finding the right space. So it's kind of telling me like, take care of like yourself for now and don't necessarily it's yeah I'm not like saying one way or the other don't move, but it is feeling like this inner work is important to whatever you do next, and maybe it will help you clarify like why you would want to move and when.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I've also been getting like the hangman repeatedly, like
Me too.
day after day, just getting like, hold on.
Like I got it today as the motherfucking card. I was like, no, get away from me.
It's like just chill and change your perspective. And I'm just like, but I want to know.
Totally. Oh my God, that's so funny that that came up for you too. Well, I want to do just one card on that. Just see what that temperance, which you know is basically like an FU. No, I'm just kidding. Um, no, I mean in this card you have this headless angel type figure pouring two different colored liquids into a bowl, which is a little different than the traditional format, but it makes me think about integrating your shadow
Mm,
and doing shadow work. And I think the full moon would potentially be a good time for that. I mean, it's a lunar eclipse, so you don't necessarily want to get too crazy with like trying to control energies. But I think something about the eclipse and the literal like shadow creation over the moon could, in that, you know, as a representative of your feelings, could be really interesting time to do some shadow ritual or work. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
I love that. I definitely I tried to do some work around when we did you know, when the eclipse happened on the 14th, and
Yeah.
just like I need to figure out better rituals. I think that's where I'm getting stuck in a lot of
Mm.
these things, is that I don't have a ritual for things and I have to like start everything new.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Oh, interesting. That's cool. I just pulled this card
oh.
earlier. It's the Six of Swords, which the monarch is always kind of always about like transformation and healing. And in this deck, he had described it about like recovery and healing. And I think, swords are like mind related things, like ideas and belief systems that you kind of hold in your head. And so maybe really evaluating your sense of worth and what you bring to the table as part of your like Queen of Pentacles mission and your Four of Swords mission, and allow that to be healing for you, is what I'm getting from that.
This all makes sense. I mean, this I can feel.
It doesn't necessarily connect to rituals, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just pulled the Hierophant. Maybe there's someone you can work with to help you with ritual work, and like, because there's, depending on what tradition you work in, there are so many different ways to approach rituals. And so, like, really knowing what tradition you want to align yourself with, like folk witchery, kitchen witchery, do you want like more traditional, like, for me, I got interested in the Strega, like Italian witchcraft,
Mm.
but haven't really pursued it because it's a little too theatrical for my taste. But like getting curious about your background and your ancestry as a way to maybe guide some of your decisions around the type of rituals that you do. Does that resonate at all?
It's interesting because like I have done lots of like familial trees and stuff like that, and I just recently got a book that my like third or fourth cousin once removed, something like that, put together like a historical book that's like that thick, like super thick, like
Oh,
it just thick book that maybe I'll go through and I'll learn some things. I feel like I am drawn to more kitchen witchery.
oh,
And
that's cool.
my friend Forrest is a kitchen witch. He's like such a kitchen witch. He like whenever I go over to his house, I'm like, oh, I feel like this, and he'll be like, let me mix you something.
Oh, hey. Oh, I love that.
And I do love earthly things, you know. I love growing things. I've been making all my own food recently to like save money because I don't have like steady income. So yeah, I've been making like my own bread and I've been making pastas and I've been making tomato sauces because I have a bunch of tomatoes from my garden and freezing them so that I can use them, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense, actually. Yeah. For those, like, maybe you can post on Instagram, but you have like a whole huge garden bed in your backyard, which makes sense that you'd be into like kind of using that. Because I know like a lot of kitchen witchery is built around like, yeah, having your own garden and stuff or
Mhm.
taking it from the street. Like some herbs I've read, like you're not supposed to grow yourself. You're supposed to like
Oh,
snip off of someone else's plants. So,
I have to get into this. Like, I feel like that's like what's calling me is I would love to get more into kitchen witchery. My garden has just been growing these like really elusive like mushrooms.
oh,
And
interesting.
I do not know how to say it, but it's like morels mushrooms.
Okay.
Apparently they're like $30 a pound. They're very elusive. They're very hard to find. And they're just like they just popped up in my garden beds.
What?
Yeah.
Well,
And like
that's lucky.
I know. I'm just like, this is pretty cool. So I've been like, you know, because I can't eat as many as I have, so I've been giving them to my friends, and like same with the
Cool.
tomatoes. I've been like, I have too many tomatoes, please take. I have a bunch of herbs, please take, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Um, yeah, you've definitely got pioneer woman vibes.
Oh yeah, the pandemic, I was just like, I was the person like making my own soaps, you know, like I was like,
Totally.
I could do this. I was like
Yeah.
thriving. I was like thriving in the chaos, which is horrible because like it was chaos and horrible, you
Yes,
know.
definitely. But it sounds like you used it to like build an empire within your apartment.
An empire of soaps.
An empire of soaps, yeah, soaps and crafts.
Oh,
Well, is there anything else? We have time for like maybe one other little question.
I'm like looking down. I have like all my tarot cards out here too.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Just
feel free to let me know if you pull something. We can do
no, no,
a
no. Like
duo reading.
I've been like loving this one, the Queer
Oh,
Tarot. I've
yes,
been like
such a
really into
beautiful
the.
book
Isn't it so
or
pretty?
deck.
It's
Yeah.
a deck and a book, but yeah, I really love Ashen Chest. They're super cool. I should have worn one of their jumpsuits. I just wore this like really.
Oh, yeah. Who is that by? A
I don't
Noon?
know who this one is by, but it's like their newer print. And I just like don't know why I really like
There's like it's like orange red with
it.
a bunch of wolves howling, like
Yeah.
werewolf type faces on it.
There's something about it that I'm just like, it feels
Very
very
Halloween-y.
October. Exactly. That's why I wore it because I was like, it feels October
Well,
vibes. And
that's I wore this like pumpkin striped sweatshirt or like t-shirt and then like a pumpkin colored cardigan. And I'm eating a pumpkin bread for breakfast. So I'm like full in pumpkin spice latte land.
I had never had a pumpkin spice latte. And when I was in Colorado, my friend's like, you've never had one. So we had like a chai vegan pumpkin spice latte at this place called
Well, but chai is like I could see that being really good actually, because chai is
it,
on its way to pumpkin spice already.
it was delightful. It was at this place called the Water Course that like every time I'm in Denver, my friends and I were like, we're going, like
If any cafe wants to sponsor us, I would be happy to insert their name right now because I'm definitely going to go get a pumpkin spice latte later today. That sounds amazing. I was thinking about it for a couple of days. I'm like, just has so much sugar, which is why I don't drink that type of drink. But I feel
Mhm.
like once a year, it's kind of nice.
You got to treat yourself. You got to like do. I'm curious, I guess, like with all this, I'm curious about that shadow work because I do feel like I
Mm,
need to do a lot of shadow work, but
okay.
directionally, I just don't know where
Oh
to
my
start.
God. You
What
will
up?
not believe what I pulled. That's
The
really
hangman?
funny.
No.
Yes. So I can't make that up. Oh my God. Okay. Well, so I don't know how you're interpreting it. So that might clue into why you keep pulling it. Because you're not embodying, like usually when I pull a card over and over again, yes, it's important for the moment, but also I'm not internalizing it yet. And so there's something about it that isn't resonating enough so that I'm like getting it, which
Well,
again, I'm pulling this for myself all the time right now too. So I wonder if like in this deck, it's a little more somber than some of the other decks. You have this man upside down from a tree. He's got a crow in his hand, and he's got this like, aura around his head, but it's not as bright as like a Rider Waite Smith deck. So it kind of and something about the leaves falling off the tree. I really respond to the imagery and the cards to kind of like feel what I have to say,
Mhm.
but it feels a little more like anxiety, partly because the trees like kind of barren, it's like winter is
Mhm.
coming slash almost there.
Yeah.
Um, so there feels like there's maybe like a scarcity moment, like there's a scarcity feeling with this. And that fear is probably rooted in something healthy. But if this is like a shadow thing that you need to contend with, like really looking at that and like figuring out where that comes from. And Six of Cups, I pulled right after, which suggests that it is like kind of probably connected to something in the past, like family related, usually, as it are all things in life connected to family history. Um, and then you got Four of Pentacles, which, is all about stability, financial stability. It can be a little bit, resisting the natural flow of money, which, if you think of money as this currency that's meant to move, like
Mhm.
holding too tightly to it can keep you stuck potentially. So that's the other piece. And that could maybe connect to your home, but
Mhm.
also other things that you make decisions around. So the last two cards, again, I feel like a little bit are like advice from the cards. They're like guidance, which the high priestess, and then also the hermit. And they both look very much like they're doing rituals. So this would make sense that you would do some kind of shadow work
Mhm.
ritual. And just seeing the hermit, there's a bunch of candles. So I feel like, candle magic is definitely a good move. The priestess journaling, reading about Jung, the kind of the
Mhm.
original shadow guy. And then I think with the hermit too, there may be an element of like, yeah, there's something about like the candelabra coming out of the head and these
Mm.
crows being a little darker, um, but then ending in light, so there's this darker root, and it may just be because it hasn't been given the attention it needs yet. So I think with whatever issue this is about, there is some real dark feelings about it, like probably like we all have various family
Yeah.
trauma, but something that you've been avoiding really examining that is manifesting the fear of scarcity, even though like that's only one perspective,
Yeah.
but there still may be an element where that is happening. And so your fear of scarcity maybe isn't totally incorrect, but also that fear is maybe continuing to manifest the thing that's going to trigger you to feel like you're in a moment of scarcity, if that makes sense.
No, I feel like I'm in a state of scarcity right now. Like I'm just like so afraid to spend money. I'm so afraid to do anything. I'm afraid to
Yeah.
because like I'm afraid to breathe. I set up a thing where it literally anything I spend, it sends me a text message. So now I'm like tracking to like a
Yeah.
level of like back, when I had so much student debt and I was getting paid like $37,000 a year and I was
Yeah.
eating peanut butter for all my meals. Like I have
Hmm.
transitioned. The sun just went away. It just got real
Like,
shadowy.
boo.
Um,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and then my blue light really intensely came in. It's like, oh, that's what it is. But I've got a lot of scarcity. I've got a lot of weird things around money and my relationship to money.
You're going into full-blown survival mode, is what it
Yeah,
sounds like. Just energetically, I feel you like batten the hatches, lock the door. You're like, we're in for battle right now.
yeah.
Instead of like from the outside, this is as your friend, not as a tarot reader. Like you seem to be doing great. You're a very hireable person, but anyway, we can take that out. But yeah, that's just my friend two
Yeah,
cents.
no, yeah, but it is really hard because like um this year's just been really rough,
Mm,
in terms of
yeah.
like having a job. But I think that the universe is basically saying, like, hey, like this isn't your path. You said you would take this path until you paid off your student loans. You said you would take this path until you hit your like financial stability number. You would take this path, and I keep hitting those milestones. And I'm like, but I need more. But I
Hmm.
need more stability. And it's like, it does come probably there's a lot of familial stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, I have that in my family where people will not retire and they're old, they're of
Mhm.
retiring age, and they keep pushing it back, and I see them like,
Mm.
being more stressed than they should be in their golden years when they've worked so hard to provide a stability for themselves. And then that extra step of letting go, like I can really see them struggle, and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to take on 6 more months of work, and I'm going to take on another year of work. And it just keeps going. And I like, yeah, so I understand. Like I've seen that play out, and I'm sure, like, I don't know, like I empathize with that, but I feel like I've also seen that just not be great,
No, it is not great. No, no, it's a horrible feeling, and it's a hard place to make the decisions from, like decisions that align with your like higher being, what you need to do, why you're here, what the universe wants from you. And
Yeah.
and that's I think where I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Is
I
like,
got Six of Wands as you were talking about that. And Six of Wands is all about like celebrating your accomplishments. And so I wonder too if there's an element where like you need to toot your own horn a little bit more.
It's so hard to do. I get that all the time. I'm like, celebrate
Oh,
your
really?
accomplishments. And I'm like, but what have I accomplished? I think it's because I, wanted to be someone that was working in the concepts mind art sort of space. And the fact that I had to turn away from that. And now
Mm. Yeah,
I
you're
have
angry about it.
I'm
Five of
really
Swords.
angry. Like my inside is so pissed that I made the choice to go away from things that are fulfilling like art. But I did start taking a clay class and I'm enjoying sculpting out of clay so hard, like to a level where I like was there from like 6 to midnight the other day
Oh
and
my God, I
I
love that.
did not want to leave. But then I went to go grab my piece and I dropped on the floor and I'm like, I need to leave because I'm making mistakes because like I tend to I'm a manifest generator. Have you ever done this before? The human design thing. So it's this like really fun thing. So you put in your birthday, your time, and it tells you like it's a very wild thing. But like I'm a manifest generator, and we're like the ones that have the most energy.
Oh yeah, I probably am too. I have a ton of energy. Yeah.
You should definitely look at it. It's really fun. It's just like a quiz where you literally put in your like date of birth and time and where you were born.
Oh,
And then
that's cool. I'll put a
tell you,
link in the show
yeah,
notes about it.
it's been
Okay,
cool.
well, yeah, as you were just talking, I got Knight of Swords, which a little bit with Knight of Swords, this anger might be fueling some of your energy, which for better for worse, anger is useful if you put the energy in the right direction, which honestly, it sounds like you're doing a little bit with the ceramics and stuff, but I wonder if potentially because you also got Ace of Wands, that there's this element of your charge forward, get it done ability and mentality is not like giving you enough time to consider partway through if it's the right thing for you. Like I
Mm-hmm.
could see your mind like you wanting to like close all the loops. And once you
Yeah.
start something, needing to like get that done to the best that you can. And I think the Ace of Wands is like, actually, it's okay if you do it part way and then you decide that's not what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't actually have to like finish anything, especially when it's a project that you've created for yourself or something that you've done for yourself. Like, obviously, if you're working a day job, like you kind of have to do whatever they tell you. But
Nah, I'm just gonna have to it. Like,
yeah, you're just like, bye, I'm gonna go to lunch. But yeah, like, and this feels connected to your Leo-ness, which is, like the sun and these like kind of fiery colors. Feels like, again, about you really putting yourself out there and
it's so
Six of Wandsing it. And, like, so I guess the shadow work is around partly to who the person who wants to be in the spotlight is, because if you're repressing that, if you see that as like not a good thing for yourself or something you're like embarrassed about or whatever, that's part of your shadow too, like. So I think
hard.
examining all kinds of shadow, not just the ones that sound bad, like obviously like being super angry and mean is like a bad part of your shadow. I'm not saying that's you, but like, but also being shy or like humble in a way that like maybe holds you back is a shadow trait too. So what is it?
It's so scary. It's so scary to be out there. Like I don't know. I feel like you're really good at doing that. Like you're so good. You have this ability to be like, I want to do that. And then you go and you do it and you are fine with getting the attention. Like you as a person. I'm talking
Well,
specifically
and I
about
think
you. And
I like it maybe seems like that, and I appreciate you saying that, but I go through the same thing. Like I really have to fight all my like negative self-talk around the reasons not to do it. And I'm probably only doing like a fraction of what I would do if I like were fully to go balls to the wall, not gross, um, but like, so I think it's like all relative. Like it looks easy from the outside, but it's really hard from the inside. I don't know. For a lot
yeah,
of people.
no, totally. I just like, yeah, that one's hard. That like that hit me. Like it's just like really hard to want, like I don't even, I struggle to document things that I do. Like all the art that I make, I like don't document and then I don't show it because I like don't want people to be like, I hate it, because then I won't do it anymore.
Mm.
Like so it's like teetering this line. I also grew up like always being very outspoken. I'm a very outspoken person. I'm very verbal and stuff like that.
Hmm.
With the pandemic, having to be inside more and like me still being more of an indoors person, you know,
Hmm.
I I don't know. Like maybe there's something there. Oh my God, we just turned into a therapy session.
I know, I love it though. I know we are not therapists, obviously.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah,
if it could not be more obvious. So I pulled the judgment card as you were talking about that, which again, this is another butterfly. So I really feel like it's around transformation. But it made me really think when you were talking about judgment that there's this element of like giving yourself the space to make things before
yeah.
you judge. And that would maybe help with the desire to put them out there, like
Yeah.
because you can allow yourself space to make and create without thinking, oh, I have to then put it out there. um and then you got 10 of swords around that too, which I just think the judgment that you're putting around maybe your like value and your work, your creative work, and it feels really crushing, like it, like and it might be just like perfectionism is what I'm like kind of getting onto, because I feel like you are really creative and active, but yeah, maybe the perfectionism feels like it's really kind of like you can't even move because every which way you're going to get cut by it. And I got the Wheel of Fortune, which I just talked about this on the tarot diagnosis with Shannon Knight. But I think I usually associate this a lot with karma and this idea of like a bigger life lesson. And just knowing that for that reason, this may be like a longer process of unlearning whatever it is that kind of told you that you had to be like 10 of swords level perfectionism. um, and just be gentle with yourself. I know that's like annoying to hear, but I feel like as much as possible, like removing judgment from yourself about where you're at, and then also from the work that you do, and like really um, removing like shame from the process of creation and like helping others. If you put yourself out there, you're doing it like in a way to help people. And so the shame of perfection shouldn't necessarily factor in.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah, we have about a minute, but I just want to give you a space to like talk about anything that you're up to. And I can put link in show notes and all that,
Um,
or
so
anything you
yeah,
want people to know.
so I have two podcasts, Matter of Life and Debt, and then I have Disability Bandwidth. Disability Bandwidth has two seasons. Third season will come out in 2024. And I just helped this AI company create a community and social media platform called The Association.
Oh, cool.
They're super cool. If you're into AI, data, any of that stuff, like join it. It's just a community of people that are interested in that.
Cool.
And that's the association.ai. And I don't know, you can follow me on Instagram, the Nikki Nolan at gmail.com. It's mostly I'm doing things in my house. I'm making food, like just like really stuff,
Yeah, or your handle is the Nikki Nolan, right?
hmm
Because I think you said at Gmail, but
Oh,
people
that's
get it.
my email. If don't you remove that. So
Um,
let me just say it again. So yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. My handle's the Nikki Nolan, and it's the Nikki Nolan on Instagram, or the only Nikki Nolan on TikTok.
oh, you are the only Nick. Okay, cool. Yeah. For the Gen Zers, you're
Yeah,
yeah.
but I'm very bad at it. So
No, I
Instagram
think you're great.
better.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully this was helpful, but I appreciate you trusting me to do this. So thank you.
Thank you so much for doing it. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to be back after 2 years, like